he would go to bed and she would sneak out and she would meet up, guys, or she then got really hooked on drugs, and it was just like a downward spiral.
I experienced my parents' divorce the opposite way. I am not a people pleaser. I will do the exact opposite of what you expect of me.
Right.
You went into people pleasing mode, which so many people.
Yes. Immediately called my dad. They knew she was always on time, and now all of a sudden she wasn't, and he came in and he scooped us up and realized, oh, she's not coming back.
I was actually shocked when you were like, I'm going to see a counselor. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you don't like to know about your feelings and you want to run.
And I never had experienced that kind of love before. I didn't have a dad who was like warm and loving and gentle and sweet. I get like bottomed out. I was done.
Yeah.
I could feel it in my business. I could feel it in my family. I could feel it in my relationship with Nick. I just was like, Lord, like, save me here, because I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Broken to Build podcast, a refuge for authenticity. Each episode, you'll be reminded that our scars are the foundation of our strengths. You will feel seen, known, and loved as you find beauty in the brokenness while you build the extraordinary life you were created to live.
Welcome back to the Broken to Build podcast. Today, I have Melissa Perry with me. You guys might recognize her from episode 0. I brought her back. She is my dear friend. Now she's your friend. I'm trying to get her to come co-host this podcast with me on a regular basis.
Oh my gosh.
So if we have a really good time today, I'm getting closer.
I see your moves.
Well,
nice tactic.
Thank
I
you.
like it.
I'm just gonna have you on quarterly and then ease it in more.
Back.
Yeah.
I like it.
So thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Love that we get to do this together.
Yes.
And I am really excited for people to hear your story and the struggles, the redemption, and everything in between.
Yeah.
So start by telling everyone a little bit about yourself.
Hey, great. So I grew up here locally in Jupiter, Florida, and was raised by a very strong, striving father who was an attorney, and I'm the oldest of 4 girls. Me and my sisters all still live here. We all have all of our kids we're raising kind of together, and it's a beautiful thing. My mom was very much a great mom. We were very strong in the church and lived a very beautiful life.
Yeah.
Really, truly.
Yeah.
We
lived on the water.
Lived
we
on
used
the
to
water.
play in your playhouse.
Oh, it was the best.
Yeah.
Like
it
my
was a great
childhood
playhouse.
was amazing.
Yeah.
Like I really don't have any negative until it was a negative.
Yeah.
I was in the church. We were very much involved. My mom was very involved in our school. We went to the same school.
Yep.
Was in a private Christian school here locally, and it was really amazing. But she went through so much, and more than anything, she just didn't have a place to go.
Right.
She really didn't have a place to go. Her outlet was alcohol.
Right.
And once she had all 4 of us, my dad was a workaholic. He would travel, he would work, he would, his focus was to bring home money and make sure our life was beautiful and glorious. And to everybody else, it looked amazing.
Yeah.
But really, she was broken. And she
hit it well.
And she hit it so well.
Because I remember after we had moved away for a little bit and someone telling me that your mom had left, because I remember your mom, and I was like, she what? Like, I remember just being shocked because there was never anything on my end when I was a kid that I would have picked up on.
Right. I mean, our parents hung out together. Our moms hung out together.
We shared nannies or au pairs or something.
We shared all the things. Yeah. We would ride bikes together. Boyfriends. She stole my boyfriend, okay?
I just gave him a kiss first. It was in 2nd grade.
Still mad about that. But no, it was really, to anybody who knew her, she was amazing. A great room mom. She was like, team mom.
Yeah.
And they had a Bible study every Friday night. And they really did have this really close-knit group of church friends.
Yeah.
And then when it was hard, I think there was some postpartum in there.
Yeah.
I do believe that, you know, she did struggle and just couldn't share. She probably didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, and that generation, they didn't talk about that.
Never.
It wasn't a thing.
She never shared it to anybody.
Yeah.
And really, that was the downfall, is that she did not have a place to go to feel safe and seen.
Yeah.
And so she's raising these 4 kids, and my dad was more like, well, I have given you all the things to help you.
Right.
You don't have to work. You have nannies. You have, you know, all you need.
Yeah.
Your kids are all in school. What do you have to worry about?
What's wrong?
And she was just like, I need you. And couldn't get his attention.
He wasn't capable.
He was not capable.
Yeah.
He was driven for the dollar.
Yep.
And he was a great dad,
Yep.
but he was not focused when he was a husband.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what he thought was being a good husband, providing for my family.
Correct.
That's my role. Other than that, I don't really need to. That's being a good spouse, a good dad, a good head of the household.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was my first 10 years. And then she dropped us off one day at school, and I could tell, I mean, they had been fighting. Let me kind of break it down. Even the year before, they had been fighting a lot. She had been sneaking out. She would go to bars. She would get completely wasted.
Yeah.
And it was more of, I knew what was happening, and I kind of was my dad's earpiece. I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, she knocked on my door in the middle of the night.
Because he would lock her out of the house.
He would lock her out of the house.
Yeah.
He was like, if you're gone, you're gone.
Yeah.
You need to figure out, you know, your own thing.
Yeah.
Or he would know. So it was some days
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like he was like very consistent and routine in his sleeping patterns at 9 p.m. at night.
Yeah.
And
until the time that he was on your bed when you snuck in and you were late for curfew.
Exactly.
He was not asleep then. We'll get to that story.
What happened then?
Yeah.
But yeah, he was, he would go to bed and she would sneak out and she would meet up, you know, guys, or she then got really hooked on drugs, and it was just like a downward spiral that she couldn't get out of.
Yeah.
And no one was willing to spot it or see it and then pull her out.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of what I experienced from 9 to 10 was this really broken, fear-driven home.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't safe. And I, being the oldest of my sisters, I felt like I had to protect them and I had to guard them. And I was now the mom. And I was my dad's right-hand girl. And it was just more of like whatever he said, I would obey. I would never want to hurt his feelings because he was already broken from my mom.
Yeah.
And didn't really know what to do and who to talk to.
Yeah.
So
can I ask you a question about that? Because her and Melissa and I had similar upbringings. Our parents both divorced when we were young. We're both the oldest.
Yeah.
We both kind of took on that caregiver, like, do you think that with your dad there was any sort of codependency relationship on, because sometimes the parent can start to rely on the oldest too much?
Completely.
Like, did you experience that?
100%. I was the mom.
Yeah.
Like I was the role of whatever that looks like. I would do all my sister's hair. I would make sure their laundry was done. I would do the chores.
You would make sure they ate healthy. I remember you chasing your sister around the gym one day because she had 2 bags of chips instead of 1. So you were trying to get the chips out of her hand.
Exactly.
Yes.
I just was like always aware where they were emotionally and physically.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just didn't want them to see, even though later on as adults and a lot of counseling later, you know, like they did see it all.
Yeah.
But viewed me as a mom. And so that role of in their minds too has shifted now after some healing. But like even now, sometimes that is their focus is like, well, why didn't you reach out to me? Or why didn't you help me? Or what? And I'm like, I would love your help too.
Right,
you know, I am sister. I am, you know, in that position than just, you know, this mother. Yeah. So that, you're right. That was very much, he was very codependent on me during those times. And being the oldest, you're like, he had to learn how to raise a kid.
Right.
And you're the first. And all of a sudden, all the things go to you to have to deal with, whether it's curfew and driving privileges and all the rules.
And you're the quintessential oldest, where you're like, I'm not going to let anyone down. I'm going to just carry it all.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I was going to carry it and lead it out and do whatever he said and not ruffle feathers as much as I could. Yeah. Up until that point, like I thought I had a voice. And then at that point I was like, I don't care what my opinion is. I'll shut that down. And please. Yeah. And that's kind of where my pleasing man came in for sure. Like I just felt there was that shift. Yeah. And so.
Which so many people can relate to. Yeah. Like I experienced my parents' divorce the opposite way, where I went the opposite. I am not a people pleaser. I will do the exact opposite of what you expect of me. Right. You went into people pleasing mode, which so many people are in. And we all have a little bit, no matter where you fall on that spectrum, we all have a little bit of that people pleaser in us. Completely. But you went to the side of like, I'm not going to let anyone down.
Right. And so, I did that for a long time.
Yeah.
Did it for a long time. But yeah, my mom dropped us off I was in 5th grade. Okay. And my youngest sister was 4. She was, I think, in preschool at our school. Yeah. Dropped us all off and did not return. So we haven't seen her since. She's alive.
Do you remember, was the goodbye something more significant?
Not at all.
Than usual? It was just like.
It was just a goodbye. It was it. And then.
Wow.
That led to, she didn't pick us up that day. And our school was small. Yeah. Everybody knew everyone.
Yes, it was
great
too
and
small.
awful
at the same time.
Exactly. So but the people in leadership, it was God's protection. It was God's love and redemption, I thought, in the same way, because those people did care. And they immediately called my dad. They knew she was always on time. And all of a sudden, she wasn't. And he came in and he scooped us up and realized, oh, she's not coming back.
He knew.
He had a very good inkling that it was time, like she was done trying to fight. And they had been trying to get her to seek help. She did for a little bit. It was back and forth in rehab a little bit, but really, truly, like she just lost hope and really didn't see a way out. Yep. And so her way out was, it's safer for me to be away and let them live their lives than me being involved here and getting verbally abused or, physically even at that point.
Yeah,
so
I do remember that. And so it felt like a very selfish act.
Yes.
And in some ways maybe, but in some ways it was very selfless for her to do that.
Correct.
For her to remove herself from that situation.
I received that now.
Yeah.
Then
it doesn't feel like it.
Like, she's left, I'm out.
Right. She doesn't care about us. She doesn't love us.
Yeah. So a lot of hardening. I don't think that I felt bitterness. I really just my dad always said, you're either with our team or you're not. And I think that kind of really put that wall up to say, you're not on our team. Yep. And kind of lived
for me or against me.
Yeah. And you kind of lived that way. So so that happened. So suddenly my dad, who works and travels everywhere, is now home and has 4 girls to raise, and we're entering our middle school years, and it was just quickly our lives shifted. Yeah. And we all just listened to this very military-like style of being raised to, like, we eat the same meals, we go to the same school, we play sports, or you better get a job, or there was love, but I kept remembering that my dad's heart was so great as a dad that deep down I know was still there. It was just that he was broken. Right. He was hurt. His wound was abandonment. Yes. And now all of a sudden it happened again.
It triggered him.
He just got abandoned again. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And so we dealt with his abandonment. And in that, he did not want us to get outside this bubble of protection he made. Yeah. And so,
because he didn't want you guys to abandon him.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. He wanted to be that go-to provider and protector.
And control. If I can control this.
Completely.
Then they're not going to leave me.
Right. There's safety in that control. Yeah. So, then we went off to college. I went to school to play basketball. And Met my husband there, and my husband.
Do we want to talk about the night?
Oh my gosh.
Do we want to go there? Is this an appropriate place?
Let's do it.
Let's go there.
Let's go there.
Okay. So
where do we begin with this story? I was supposed to go out with you.
You were?
Yes.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
I was supposed to go out with you, and
Yes.
I was babysitting late.
Yes.
And I was like, no, I'm just gonna hang home.
Yes. So I had met your now husband, Nick, once before.
Correct.
And we met at a basketball game. So
Yep.
you guys were fairly newly dating. He was wearing a hat and a hoodie. And so I didn't like it. You were sitting next to me between us. So it was like, Lauryn, this is Nick. Nick, this is Lauryn. We introduced ourselves. That was it.
Right.
So you didn't end up going out that night. I went out to party, to drink. And I see this guy at a local bar.
Yeah.
And I see your ex-boyfriend talking to him.
Correct.
And I was like, oh, that guy's cute. And so
she was trying to hit on my husband.
I was not hitting on him, but I thought he was cute. And so your ex-boyfriend comes up to me and I said, hey, who's that guy you're talking to? And he's like, I had told a friend of mine that I thought he was cute first. And my friend was like, you need to go talk to him. You need to go talk to him. And I was like, well, I need to find out something about this guy first. And so your ex-boyfriend walks over and is like, hey, who's that guy you're talking to? And he's like, that's Nick, Melissa's boyfriend. I was like, oh my gosh. So I call you on the way home and
left
I'm
me
like,
this very detailed message.
gosh.
Melissa, I am so sorry. I'm like, what did you do?
Also, your husband, Nick, has a very twisted version of what happened that night.
Yes.
Because he would tell you that I tried to holler at him, which I did not. Thinking someone is cute is totally different. We are setting the record straight. This is what happened.
You heard it here.
So, yes.
Yeah.
So, anyway, okay. So, you went to PBA.
Yeah, so I went to PBA. We meet each other my sophomore year. We connect. And you're in college, like you mentioned in your episode, it was the greatest years to kind of figure it out. And I felt real freedom from my house for so long.
Because you weren't living at home anymore.
I wasn't living at home, but I was close enough. I chose the school all based, again, on my family. So I chose the school based on my sisters. They would need me. I was close enough by if they needed help, if they needed anything, if my dad needed anything. Like, it wasn't too far.
Yeah.
And so although I played sports, and that was the reason really why I chose it, it wasn't the heart of it was for my family.
Which I just want to interject right there. I kind of love it that maybe the reason that you chose it was not free of your trauma. Like, there was part of that code. I need to be there for my family. I can't disappoint them. I need to please them. So in your woundedness, you made a decision, but then the Lord worked that out because that's where you met Nick.
Right.
Like,
there's such redemption.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that about your story.
And such good friends, right? Like, that really would walk us through so much more. Like, that was the beauty that came out of the brokenness in that season for me. So I felt free. I felt like I was like figuring out who I was. And even though I would say, oh, I knew who I was by the end of the 4 years, I didn't, right?
Yeah.
And so then you get married and you have these kids. So I have 3 kids. Riley is now 14.
So crazy.
She's
like a grown woman. She's so tall.
But I have Riley, I have Hudson, who's 12, and I have Aiden, who's 9. And Riley, having your first baby, it does teach you something. It teaches having kids teaches you everything. Yeah. Every hidden wound you ever suppress, which I'm an avoider. I'll run away from all the things that feel like a conflict.
Do I know
I'm like,
that?
see ya, bye. But like, for that, you had to face it, right? I had to face that I'm a mom. This is really hard. And now all of a sudden I go back to my mom faced this and dealt with it in this way. I don't want to be the same. So Nick and I both really came from these broken families, came together and were like, we want to do it different. And we said that from day one. When we were dating, that's what we said. that was the one thing that really united us.
Yeah.
But more so than I was like, no, God is going to do something different with us and with our family. And he has. And that's like the beauty that came out of it. But there was struggle for those years. And the struggle wasn't necessarily with our relationship. It was more of just how we had hidden the wounds. Like we just didn't know how to feel.
You didn't deal.
We didn't deal with anything.
Yeah.
So like your mom to put you in counseling.
Right.
My dad didn't believe in counseling.
Right. Totally.
He didn't deal. He was an avoider. He was like, let's just put our head down and fight.
Right.
Right. And that's where my striving began. So as that was happening, I was like struggling massively. My child wasn't sleeping. I decided at that point, like, I'm going to help other moms. Yeah. And I knew that was like my calling. That was my calling for that moment. My purpose was to help women.
Yep.
My purpose was to help them find a place that they could feel secure and loved and safe. And that if they were dealing with something, they could actually vent it out. Like, I need help. I need somebody to go to. And I would be the first person that I will help fix it for you.
I remember that. And you had actually had several clients after you started a business call me to talk about postpartum.
Exactly.
And so I remember that. Yeah. Your heart was to help and whatever that looked like in whatever way you could.
Yes. So that's the start of a business I had called the Cradle Coach. And that was just my,
it
was good. It was like, that's what I did. That was my mission. That was my heart of the company, was just like, I'm dealing with this. I remember what my mom went through.
Yep.
We aren't going to be those people.
Yeah.
We are going to put our head down and fight.
Yeah.
And
make some money while doing it and start a business.
And it was so incredible those years. And I had kids and I was growing the business and it was growing really fast and God just really was blessing it. And then he was teaching me, though, within the last few years, what striving was actually doing to me. And it was really allowing me to rely on myself. And it wasn't allowing me to rely on him. And although all those years I knew God, he really was revealing his truest father-like love to me.
Yeah.
And I never had experienced that kind of love before. That earthly father wasn't the same. I didn't have a dad who was like warm and loving and gentle and sweet.
Right.
It was, no, you will listen to me or you will be kicked out.
Yeah. And you earn the love by striving and pleasing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's what I formed love to be.
Yeah.
And God was like, no. And my husband was like, no.
Yeah.
That's not, I don't need you to do anything.
Right.
But in my mind, that's what I believed to show love was to do more, to be there, to fix it, to help, to please, say yes to everything. And God was just like, say no, say no, say no. And that includes sell your business. And that includes, this and the other. My husband and I we also had owned a gym.
Yes.
And that journey
for
was
a long
whole pleasing man. Like it was every opportunity to undo all those things as well. So I think in the end, the depth of love that God showed me was that I knew he was always there. I knew I was always protected. My faith was always there. I could hear the Lord. I didn't know I was hearing the Lord. I could see so much love for people in the brokenness that they were experiencing. So outside looking in, I could see the inside. If that makes sense.
Yeah, you're a seer.
I can see your truest heart. I can see how God has created and formed you, and he loves you in this identity.
Yeah.
And then in the shift of undoing, he had taught me my identity in him. And really that came out as I stopped striving.
Yeah.
And that was hard.
Yeah.
Extremely.
So I want to touch on that, but it brings us back to the verse in episode 0 in Isaiah about the large ship with oars on the broad river.
Yep.
The whole point of that scripture is you're not striving.
Right.
You're not directing. You're not propelling. Let me take you where you need to go.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean be lazy and I never do anything.
Right.
But that means resting in the Lord. So tell me more. I'm going to push in a little bit about your year of rest and the year of learning how not to strive.
Yeah, that's my plan was, okay, 3 months, maybe 2, Lord. That'd be great.
This was after you sold
Correct.
the Cradle Coach business.
Correct.
That
Once
you had
I
spent
sold
how many years building?
10 years, 12 years building.
Okay.
But in our, it was, I had been doing a ton of different things within the company. And then it came out of nowhere.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, this is.
Someone called you one day and said, hey, are you interested in selling your
business?
Yep.
And we got to talking. She had the greatest heart. That I knew was supposed to happen. I knew God said, this is for her now. Your assignment there is over.
Yep.
And I was like, okay. So as soon as we sell in October, I was like, okay, I'll go through the holidays. It's going to be really fun. Yeah. I'm going to just enjoy.
I can hang with the kids and family.
Get everything ready for the holidays and make it really fun. I can pay attention. It's great. And then I went to my counselor and she was like, don't make a plan. Just let it happen and be intentional with the Lord. And that's it.
Don't make a plan. It's like the worst thing someone could say to you.
It's like that is probably my nightmare. Because even though I like to be free, I also like in the back of my mind to plan that I'm going to be free.
This is my plan. Freedom. During this time.
Correct.
And then I'm going to get to something else.
Yes. And I am one to always have new ideas. I'll always have like another business idea. Oh, somebody should do this. Or I'll be your biggest hype girl.
It's exhausting. You are a hype girl.
I can be your biggest hype girl of what I know your heart is supposed to be made for.
But even maybe bad ideas.
Completely. I could shut up half the time.
Yeah, I could come to you with the worst idea ever and you'd be like, you should totally do that.
Go do
that.
That
is great idea.
And later I realized like not everyone's made to be a business owner, you know? But like your idea is really good. If you have a dream, go for it, you know?
Yeah.
So I have a lot of life in that, but to stay still.
This just came to me. I can't remember who it was, but someone compared you to manure.
Wow.
Someone was like, they were like, oh, she's fertilizer, which I'm
like, I'll take that.
I see it. I like it. Like fertilizer, like speeds up the growth and encourages like a healthy plant and all that stuff, which is great. But I'm like, but on the base level, that's like cow poop. But it's who you are. Like sprinkle little Melissa in there and it's going to grow and it's going to go fast and it's going to be big and it's going to be strong and healthy and all of those things.
Yeah.
Well, which I love.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you. But the Lord was like, he gave me the verse, be still and wait patiently for me. And he gave it to me right before all of this. Now, I should even back up and say, in that time, that year, my dad passed away, who I had known and loved and that was like a whole other depth of revelation that I had to go through.
In the year when your counselor said, don't make plans.
Correct.
Okay.
She said, don't make plans.
Yep.
My dad dies. I go to counseling for the first time. Really?
I remember that. I was actually shocked when you were like, I'm going to see a counselor. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you don't like to know about your feelings and you want to run.
I want to run.
And so I was amazed and I was so like proud of you. Not to sound condescending, but I was like, this is amazing. This is a huge step.
Yeah. I just didn't, I am very growth minded. So I thought that like me digging in and reading all the books and doing all the work, that was
going
good.
Forward. I'm
not moving the needle.
Yes.
But I felt like then getting counseling, it was pushing me back.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go back. I can suppress things. I am good at that.
Yeah.
And the Lord was like, no, I'm undoing things. I'm undoing the things that you've held on to be true. I want to undo the lies you've believed and come into agreement with. I want to undo the wounds that have been left there, not even realizing that those were doors that the enemy could use to just hurt me more, ruin me more, just like undo who I knew God to be.
I just got this picture when you were saying that about striving and moving forward. And what you were doing was you had all of these weights on you that you didn't know that you were carrying. And so you felt like, well, it's not moving the needle forward, but the Lord was like, no, I'm unburdening you so that you can move faster. You cannot run with all of these weights. You cannot go the distance. you're going to get tired, you're going to get weary, you're going to feel like you just don't have the energy to go on.
Yeah.
And so to take that space for him to unburden you is actually going to free you up to go farther, to go faster. But you had to slow down enough to release the weights.
Correct. And that was hard to do.
Yeah.
That was really hard to do.
Yeah.
And unless my dad, I hate to say this, but unless my dad didn't die, if he didn't die, I wouldn't have done that. I don't think. I was in a growth mindset and I thought I had like undone so many things God had already been sharing with me. I have really great mentors, David and Marla Saunders, and they were the ones who were like, press into the unknowing of things that you see as what you've always been taught. You know, like we've always been taught one way.
Right.
And they kind of just showed me like the heart of God.
Yeah.
And
the unlearning the wrong ways that we've been taught.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that piece of it for Nick and I was really something that we just said, okay, we want that. We want to have, we were doing all the things with carrying those weights. And in it, I just wanted more. And then also my dad dies and I get like bottomed out. I was done. I could feel it in my business. I could feel it in my family. I could feel it in my relationship with Nick. I just was like, Lord, like save me here because I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I started going to see a counselor. I started really doing that work. Yeah. And it was unbelievable. So to then jump forward a few months later, 10 months later, in October, the Lord's, that verse, that whole year was be still and wait patiently for me. Yeah. It came to really a head when I'm selling my business. I have a plan now to like be free a little bit, sit still. And I'm still lasting like now a year later. Yeah. And so what though has come out of the be still and wait patiently for me is full reliance. Yeah. So I had to break off generational curses. I had to break off pretty much everything I was holding, those weights, but more. Like every door that the enemy had access to, I had to break off. Yeah. I had to break off relationships. I had to break off, just my reliance on myself, my pride, my own idolatry of just sitting here thinking I could do it myself. Yeah. And all those years have lasted me. It did make me who I am today. Right. I did move the needle in a lot of ways, but only in my striving. Right. And only in myself. And my now real trust and reliance has been on God. Yeah. And that's a day at a time. One day at a time. That's if today he asked me to do something, I'm going to do it. If he's telling me not yet, I'm going to just wait. Yeah. And that is real freedom. Like I can't imagine going backwards.
That's so like beautiful. That's the redemption.
That's the redemption. Yeah. So you have this brokenness of my life story. And I would say, 40 years of my life were one way. Yeah. And then now I feel free and whole with a lot of scarring. And that's okay. Yeah. I'm learning to
because that's the foundation of our strength.
Exactly.
Is those scars.
Exactly. And now I can see so clearly the identity work and who I am and who I'm called for and what I'm supposed to do. And it's not about my career that's going to make my identity one way.
Because the Lord's
I got nothing.
really cleared that plate for you recently. So
like gone, gone, no more, and that. Yeah. But I think that's freeing. That is freeing. And do I have any clue what that looks like? No. But I think, in both of my story and Nick's, we were working, but individually. Like we were coming together as one, but God had to work in my heart to not carry his stuff. Yep. And he couldn't carry my stuff. Yep. God could only carry that. Yeah. I had to release. I had to surrender. Yeah. And surrender looked very different from when I thought I surrendered everything. Yeah. To true surrender. Yeah. And there is a difference when you have let it go and you just, like you said, don't care anymore what people think, what we're doing. And that is a daily check in with myself. I have to constantly put on the armor of Christ every morning and be there.
Renew your mind
and move into the directions he has for me. And does it happen where I'm triggered by it or a testing of my faith happens? 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
I will please. I can. My natural side is to please man.
Yeah.
Still, if you are hurt, I don't want you to be hurt. I want you to like live your life to the fullest and, find joy and see God. But I was actually stopping people from seeing God because I wasn't my true self.
Yeah.
And so in my old self, that's how it would have been. But in who I am and the redemption story I carry, there's so much more there than what meets the eye, And it's true. If I'm going to say no to you, might be hard and it might feel weird for me, but there's such freedom in a no.
Yeah, and no can be a holy word.
No. Yes.
Like that is, there needs to be balance, and it's a full sentence.
Yep.
There doesn't have to be like, no, because like this, or no, we can't because, like it's no.
Right.
Like God calls us to say no sometimes.
Yeah.
So I love that. Well, thanks for being here. This has been so fun.
So good. Thanks for having me.
Well, that's a wrap. There is so much more to talk about. We will have Melissa back, hopefully more on a regular basis. We'll see. We're just going to plug it in every so often. So thank you for joining us, and catch us in the next episode.